Welcome to Small Stories, Big Healing, where old teachings speak softly into modern lives.
When you cannot bring yourself to speak honestly, when you smile while your heart is tired, when you fear that if people see the real you, they will step back instead of stepping closer. Have you ever wondered if what you call strength is sometimes just a well-practiced hiding place? This short story is for you. This is Small Stories, Big Healing. Once upon a time, in a seaside town where the air smelled of salt and pine, there lived a young man named Evan. Evan was dependable. He was the one people called when a shelf needed fixing, when a neighbor's car would not start, when someone needed advice that sounded steady and certain. He never raised his voice. He never complained. He never asked for much. And because of that, people often said, "Evan is so strong." But strength, as Evan had learned it, did not feel like peace. It felt like holding your breath so no one hears you trembling. Each morning, Evan woke early and walked along the shoreline before the town fully stirred. He would watch the waves fold and unfold against the rocks, and he would tell himself, "Be like the stone, quiet, solid, unmoved." Yet some days, even a stone feels the weight of the sea. Evan carried a hidden heaviness, a grief he did not name, a loneliness he could not explain, a tiredness that did not go away no matter how many kind things he did for others. He feared that if he admitted it, people would look at him differently. He feared they would think, "So you are not who we thought you were." And beneath that fear was an even deeper one. What if they leave? One evening, as the town prepared for its yearly lantern festival, Evan was asked to help. The festival was a beloved tradition. Hundreds of lanterns would be released into the night, each carrying a small note, a wish, a prayer, a remembrance. Evan agreed, as he always did. He spent the day setting up lantern frames, tying strings, carrying crates until his arms ached. People thanked him, people smiled, and Evan smiled back. But inside, he felt like a house with every light turned on for guests, while one room stayed locked, dark and silent. As dusk approached, Evan walked behind the festival grounds to rinse his hands in a trough of water. He leaned over, watching the surface ripple. His reflection looked calm. His chest did not. A familiar voice behind him said gently, "You are working hard, Evan." Evan turned. It was Mrs. Sora, an elderly woman who lived near the hill path, a quiet presence in town with eyes that seemed to notice what people tried to hide. Some called her strange, most called her wise. She carried a small basket and a folded cloth, as if she had come prepared for whatever the evening might bring. Evan offered a polite smile. "It's nothing," he said. Mrs. Sora nodded, as if she had heard that answer 1,000 times from 1,000 hearts. She stepped closer to the water trough, and with one slow movement, she stirred the water until it turned cloudy with mud from the bottom. Evan watched, confused. Mrs. Sora said, "Tell me what you see." Evan looked. "Nothing," he said. "It's too muddy." She smiled softly. "Yes," she said. "When you stir what is hidden, the water looks worse before it clears." Evan frowned. "I don't understand." Mrs. Sora lifted the cloth from her basket and revealed a small lantern, unlit, unfinished, and delicate. Its paper was thin. Its frame was light bamboo. She held it out to Evan. "Help me finish this one," she said. Evan took the lantern carefully, as if it could break from a harsh breath. He inspected the bamboo ribs, the fine paper, the small place at the bottom where the candle would sit. "It's fragile," he said. Mrs. Sora nodded. "That is why it can fly." Evan paused. She continued. "Some people believe that to be strong, they must become thick like armor. But armor does not rise into the sky. Armor sinks." Evan swallowed. He wanted to laugh it off. He wanted to change the subject. But something in her voice made him feel seen in a way that was both comforting and frightening. He asked quietly, "Are you saying I'm sinking?" Mrs. Sora did not answer directly. She only pointed to the lantern in his hands. "Tell me," she said, "what happens if you never light it?" Evan stared at the empty lantern. "It stays just paper," he said. "And what happens," she asked, "if you light it?" "It glows," Evan replied. "It becomes what it's meant to be." Mrs. Sora's eyes softened. "Many people," she said, "keep their lantern unlit because light can be seen. And what can be seen can also be judged." Evan's throat tightened. He felt the familiar urge to be agreeable, to be fine, to be the version of himself that made others comfortable. So he said the old words again. "I'm okay." Mrs. Sora did not argue. She simply placed a small brush and a pot of ink on a nearby crate. "Write," she said. "One honest sentence." Evan's hands went cold. He looked around, startled. "What? Here?" "Yes," she said, calm as the tide. "Write it where the air can hold it. Write it where you cannot hide it from yourself." Evan hesitated. A dozen thoughts rose at once. What if someone sees? What if this is foolish? What if I cannot stop once I begin? He wanted to protect his image, his reputation, his role as the strong one. But he also felt how exhausting it was to keep holding his breath. So, Evan dipped the brush in ink. The lantern paper absorbed it quickly, like dry soil drinking rain. His hand trembled. And slowly, he wrote a sentence, so small it could fit in the palm of a hand, yet so heavy it had shaped his life. He wrote, "I am not okay, and I am tired of pretending." The moment the words dried, Evan felt tears rise, as if his body had been waiting for permission. He turned his face away, embarrassed. He whispered, "I shouldn't have written that." Mrs. Sora's voice stayed gentle. "Why not?" she asked. Evan's breath broke. "Because if people know," he said, "they'll think I'm weak." Mrs. Sora reached out and steadied the lantern with both hands. "Listen carefully," she said. "Weakness is when you pretend you do not need anyone and then punish yourself for feeling alone." Evan stared at the lantern, his sentence shining dark against the pale paper. Mrs. Sora continued, "Vulnerability is different. Vulnerability is truth without cruelty. It is the courage to say, 'This is where I am,' without demanding the world to fix it for you." Evan breathed in, and for the first time that day, his breath felt like it reached the bottom of his lungs. "But what if it makes things worse?" he asked. "What if it stirs everything up like the muddy water?" Mrs. Sora nodded. "Sometimes it does," she said. "Truth can feel messy at first, but remember the water. If you stop stirring, it settles. Clarity comes, not by force, but by honesty and time." They carried the lantern together toward the festival grounds. Night had fully arrived. The town was glowing. With string lights and warm laughter, children ran between tables. Old friends embraced. Music drifted through the air like a slow, familiar song. Evan moved among them as he always did, helping, adjusting, lifting, repairing. But now he felt something new resting inside his chest, a quiet question. What if being seen is not the end of love, but the beginning of it? At the center of the grounds, a long table held the lanterns, waiting to be released. People lined up, writing their notes, tucking them inside, lighting the small candles. Evan stood with Mrs. Sora, holding the fragile lantern that carried his honest sentence. His fingers hovered over the matchbox. He hesitated again, because once the lantern was lit, his words would be visible. Not to everyone. The ink was small, the night was wide, but visible enough to himself. Mrs. Sora leaned close and whispered, "Courage is not loud. Courage is the match in a shaking hand." Evan struck the match. The flame flared briefly, bright and delicate. He lowered it to the candle. The wick caught, and suddenly the lantern warmed from within. Light spread through the paper like dawn moving through fog. Evan watched as the lantern glowed. His sentence did not look ugly. It looked human. It looked true. He felt a strange relief, as if a tight knot had finally loosened. He carried the lantern to the release line. People around him smiled politely, focused on their own wishes. No one pointed. No one laughed. The world did not collapse. Then, as Evan stood there, a woman he knew, his friend Lena, who often asked him for help but rarely asked him how he was, walked up beside him. She held her own lantern, already lit. She glanced at Evan's face, and something in his expression made her pause. "Hey," she said quietly, "are you all right?" The old Evan would have smiled automatically and answered without thinking, "I'm fine." But the lantern in his hands was warm and honest. And Evan realized, if he could not be true in this small moment, then the lantern meant nothing. So he took a slow breath and said softly, "Honestly, not really." Lena blinked. Evan's heart hammered, waiting for rejection. But Lena's shoulders softened. She stepped closer, as if truth had made room for her to approach. "I'm glad you told me," she said. "I've been struggling too, and I didn't want to bother anyone." Evan stared at her, surprised. Lena gave a small "I always thought you were the strong one," she said. "But maybe strength is just being real." Evan felt tears again, but this time they did not feel like failure. They felt like thawing. Around them, people began releasing lanterns one by one. The sky filled with light, soft floating stars rising over the dark ocean. Evan looked up. 1,000 lanterns drifted together, separate yet shared, each fragile, each bright, each lifted by the same truth. Light is not heavy. It rises. Evan released his lantern. For a moment, it wavered, tilting in the wind. His stomach tightened. But then, the warm air inside found balance. The lantern steadied, and slowly it lifted into the night and joined the others. Evan watched it rise until it became a small glow among many, and something inside him whispered, "Maybe you were never meant to be a stone. Maybe you were meant to be a lantern." Later that night, Evan walked home, along the shoreline again. The waves still came. The rocks still stood. But Evan no longer asked himself to be unmoved. Instead, he listened. He listened to the ocean's rhythm, how it met the shore, how it pulled back, how it returned again. Water did not pretend to be something it was not. It moved. It yielded. It kept going. And Evan understood. Vulnerability is not the absence of strength. It is strength in its most honest form. Because to admit, "I am hurting," is not weakness. It is a doorway. And what waits on the other side is often not judgment, but connection. Not abandonment, but understanding. Not shame, but relief. And so, from that night forward, Evan practiced something small and brave. He did not tell everyone everything. He did not make his pain a performance. He simply stopped lying when his heart needed truth. When someone asked, "How are you?" he learned to answer with one honest sentence. Sometimes it was, "I've been overwhelmed lately." Sometimes it was, "I'm doing my best, but I could use support." Sometimes it was, "Today is a hard day." And each time he did, he felt the same quiet miracle. The world made room. People leaned in. Love felt less like something you had to earn by being perfect, and more like something you could receive by being real. And that is where healing begins. Because healing does not start when you finally look strong. Healing starts when you finally stop pretending. The moral of the story is this: vulnerability is not a crack in your strength. It is the place where light enters. The courage to be honest about your feelings does not push good people away. It invites the right people closer. And when you stop carrying your burdens alone, your heart becomes lighter. Not because life is easy, but because you are no longer hiding. So if you are listening today and you have been holding your breath, trying to be fine, trying to be strong, trying to be easy to love, remember this: even the ocean rests by returning to the shore. Even the lantern rises because it is filled with light. You do not have to be armor to be worthy. You only have to be honest to be free. If you learned something today, or if Evan's journey brought you even a small sense of calm, I invite you to stay connected with us. This is Small Stories, Big Healing, short tales to soothe your heart and guide your steps. If this story should reach more people who are struggling with being vulnerable, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need this reminder, and comment below, what does vulnerability mean to you? Your one comment may encourage someone else who feels alone tonight. And if you'd like more stories that bring gentle comfort and insight, please subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next healing tale. Until then, be gentle with your truth and let it be a light, not a burden. Small Stories, Big Healing will be here with another tale whenever your heart needs a gentle reminder.